My mom had crazy demands at my wedding, so I had to do something I didn't want to. I uninvited her, and let me tell you exactly why. My mom was, in a single word, a helicopter parent. She's been like that my entire life. In the start, it had just been protectiveness over her baby, and I understood that. That behavior was perfectly normal. Watching out for her kids, making sure they were safe, and not getting into any sort of trouble. That's great. It's what a parent should do. However, as I grew older, it became not so great. She would hover around me at all times, taking great interest in my life, forcing me to go to all school events and completing in everything. And somehow, she would always find a way to make it all about herself. It was her daughter who won at events. It was her skills that she passed down to her daughter. Everything, I mean everything, had to be about her at all times. Not that I really minded, I loved her to death, and overlooked all her flaws and faults. A little background about my mother. She had great dreams in life and had always wanted to be successful. Somehow, it just never worked out for her. She had spent her entire life believing that she was special and destined for something great. But that never materialized into the real world. She had tried her hand at everything: sports, modeling, acting, fashion design, heck, even business. She had tried opening and running a soap-making business of her own, but it just never worked out. She had gotten stuck working the same 9-to-5 job in a software company like everyone she had known. Deep down, it rankled her, and I think some part of her tried to make it up by just pushing me to excel and taking extra interest into my life. It got worse the older I grew, with her trying to insert herself in my group of friends, and trying to join in our activities just to hang out. When I was 14, our parents allowed us to have a camp out in one of our friends' garden, right out back. My mom kept dropping by all event to quote drop things off, like cookies or marshmallows, and once evening and dusk rolled around, she said that she thought it best if she stayed the night with us. A group of 14-year-olds who wanted to tell scary stories, talk about boys, and dare each other to do crazy stuff. In short, it was the worst night of my life, and my friends kept sending each other weird looks, as if telling each other about my crazy mom. It was embarrassing, and I was completely humiliated. I'd always allowed her a lot to say in my life, but this time she's gone too far. I talked to my father first thing next morning, and he put his foot down. He told Mother that she wasn't to coordinate or plan to go to my near group of friends, or hang out ever again. She got angry and upset, but finally relented when I said that I needed to grow up normal, not live one of those girls who always have their mom attached to their hips. Well, after a meltdown and a lot of guilt tripping, she agreed to be more careful in the future. Fast forward a few years, and I'm picking out the colleges I want to apply. She was adamant that I stay in state, near her. Well, I was adamant that I go out of state, something that was at least 4 hours away. My main reason was to be far away that she could not drop by whenever she wanted. She kicked up a fuss, but in the end I got my way. My college years were a lot better. Once the initial shock of separation wore off, my mother settled into life without me. I realized that a little distance was a healthy thing, and as a result, I grew closer to my mother and had a better relationship with her. After college, I interned at a company in the same state that I attended college in, and afterward, decided to accept the job and another company in the same city. My mother, who had been trying to get me back home, threw another fit. But I told her that it was best for me and my career. Again, after a lot of shouting, she relented. Mostly due to my dad telling her that I was an adult and that I was going to make my own decisions now. Over the years, her antics and attentions had blurred in my mind, to the point that it did not really bother me anymore. I occasionally thought of her as overbearing, but did not think much of it. My second year at the company, I met a guy. His name was Luke. He worked at a company a few blocks away from mine, and we went for drinks a few times, and we really hit it off. After about a month or so together, I broke the news to my mom that I had a boyfriend. She went crazy with excitement, grilling me about him, and wanting me to know all the details, tell everything about him. She seemed happy for me, and to be honest, I was glad. What I wasn't happy about was her showing up unannounced that same weekend. She barged into my apartment telling me that she was here to meet the new man in my life. Luke had been there at the time, and I was so extremely embarrassed. Especially since it had been only 1.5 months and we hadn't talked about family or anything yet. However, he took it all in stride and was really sweet about it. He laughed and talked with her and told her all sorts of amusing anecdotes. She also insisted on staying over the weekend with Luke still there. I laughed and told her she was welcome to it, but after he left, I told her that I was upset that she had shown up unannounced. She seemed taken aback and said that she was my mother. Why would she need to tell me when she's coming by? She further said that she came because she wasn't sure if she could let me date someone without her checking him on him first, to see what kind of person he was. I told her whatever. She wasn't going to ambush Luke like that again, like she did this time, and she was not going to see him again. It was still early in our relationship. She started crying and saying that she did not know I disliked her so much, that I did not want her around my boyfriend or thought that I would get the way of our relationship. I knew that she was guilt-tripping me and being her usual absorbed self, but I was exhausted and wanting her tantrum to be over. I said that I was sorry, but she still needed to go to the back the next day, as I was busy with my own life. However, I did compromise with her and told her that Luke and I would video call her soon. That mollified her and she cheered right up. Afterwards, when I talked with Luke, I apologized and said I was sorry for how she behaved. He said it was okay. He didn't mind. He also told me that he would like me to meet his parents soon, so that Easter, I went with him over the holidays and met his parents and siblings. His mother and father were the sweetest, kindest beings ever, and his siblings were playful and nice. We hit it off right away, and I felt accepted into their family for the first day. We spent an excellent holiday together. The only downside was before the holidays. I did not tell my mom where I was spending the holidays. I knew she would interfere with the whole thing, and I wanted everything drama-free. When I got back, I told her about my trip, and she blew a head gasket, saying I should have told her at least let me video call with Luke or his parents or plan my outfit. The list just went on and on. I told her I was busy, then I hung up. About 4 months later, Luke proposed to me at the beach at night set. It was very romantic and proposal. I loved it. I immediately said yes. However, after I said yes and I thought about planning the wedding, I knew how my mother would react. We were going for the fall wedding, as both Luke and I had work commitments that we wanted to have the wedding, then both of us had some free time. We did not really care about the decorations or things like that. What was important was each other. However, as soon as the engagement was announced, my mother went crazy. She said she would take care of everything and I would leave the entire planning of the event up to her. I knew I would regret it, but also knew that with my busy schedule, I could never do it on my own, so I told her sure, why not? I just asked her for one thing, to keep it low-key and classy. She said of course she would, but she knew best and I wasn't to get in her way. She soon met with Luke's parents and Luke and I were there as well. My mom completely railroaded them, going on and on about things she liked and what we do best. I thought Luke's parents, his mother in particular, might feel left out, but thankfully they took everything in stride. Then came the part where we were deciding the finances. My mom immediately said that she will cover all the expenses. Luke's father did look a little disappointed at that, and we immediately jumped in and managed to negotiate a 70-30 deal, saying that since my mom was planning most of the things, she knew where the money would go, while at the same time, Luke's parents would chip in too. The first thing my mom said that she was changing the time of the wedding. She said the fall was too dreary, and a spring wedding would do best. She went on and on about how she loved spring weddings. She only relented after I reminded her that it was our wedding and our timelines would match with autumn weddings, not a spring one. I knew that her list of demands would be long, and silently prepared myself for the battle that was going to follow. Her next demand was that we got a nice picture taken of the two of us, have it printed on badges that all our guests would wear. She said it would be a nice memento and that it would show just how close we are. I said that the idea was tacky as heck, and if we were forced to have badges with somebody's face on them, it should be mine and Luke's, since, we're the ones getting married, not her. Her face fell and she did not talk to me for over a week. I told myself that I would not apologize or take back what I said, as I could not deal with the stress anymore. I needed to start putting up boundaries. I knew that not giving her the attention she wanted would work, because she soon came back, telling me that she's forgiven me and decided on the menu. She said that it was a surprise and she had a scheduled tasting for me and Luke and herself. I pointed out that Luke's parents should also be invited, but she said that it was okay since she was planning everything anyways. They could just do the tasting at the wedding. When we get there, we're shocked to see that the menu was made entirely of seafood. Other than the cake and the desserts, of course. My mother beamed at us and asked, "Wasn't it wonderful? And wasn't it such a great menu?" A sickening feeling came over me. She loved seafood and I hated it. I could barely tolerate it. And as a bonus, Luke's mom was allergic to fish. Luke looked over to me with an odd expression. He had never complained when I told him about my mom's antics, but I could see that this time he was really frustrated. I sat quietly through the tasting, and when it came to an end, I politely thanked the shopkeeper before pulling my mom out of the shop. My anger had come to a head. I was going to let her have it. She looked at my face, smiled, and said that we were definitely going with the menu she had just tasted. Livid, I started shouting at her, "What is wrong with you? You know that I don't like seafood. You like seafood, and you think it's a good idea to serve it at my wedding." We were in the middle of the street and I was yelling my head off. My mom looked around, trying to calm me down, saying that we could do this later. I said no, we were doing this now. I reminded her that I had sent over a list of foods that were absolutely forbidden, and one of them was seafood, because of Luke's mom. Her face fell, and she said that she must have forgotten about it. Angrily, I yelled that she did not forget. She ignored it like she ignores everything else, and decided to do it her way because she was a selfish woman and she wanted to make my wedding all about her. I told her that I'll call her later and left with Luke. After calming down and discussing it with Luke, I called her back. Hotly, she asked if I was ready to say sorry. Upset, I said that it was her who should be saying sorry and that she was no longer invited to the wedding, and that she wasn't going to have any say in the preparation anymore. She had a total meltdown, saying that I was overreacting and as the mother of the bride, she deserved some of the spotlight. I said that since I was the bride, I should have had all the spotlight and she should be happy for me. I reminded her of the past, about the campout, her meltdowns over my college choices, and told her that I had tolerated this in the past, but no more. After this, I hung up. I was sad that there was only a month to go to the wedding and we had nothing planned. Thankfully, the next day I got a call from Luke's parents, saying that they heard what had happened and we were willing to foot a large portion of the bill. They also knew a family friend who would be happy to take care of the details for us and did not mind that it would be very last minute. I was so glad to get things done without drama. In the month leading up to the wedding, I got a lot of messages from my mom, accusing me of being a bad daughter and a bad person. She also said she wished ill on me and Luke, and that a marriage that wasn't blessed by parents would surely fall apart sooner rather than later. I'd had enough of her lofty demands, and arranged for security at the wedding, thinking she might try to gate crash it. In the end, she did try to gate crash the wedding, but the guards stopped her. The wedding and service was lovely, and everyone had a great time. My marriage was off to a great start, and I'd finally decided to cut a toxic person, my mother, out of my life. Maybe someday I'd be ready to give her another chance, but that day, quite simply, isn't today. Unfortunately, it seems like this story is one of those situations where someone's just so toxic and overbearing that you have no choice but to say, I'm sorry, but there's no more contact. You're uninvited from the wedding. Guys, let me know in the comments down below. How would you have handled this situation if you were OP? Our next story that we're going to look at is an Am I the A-hole story. Am I the a-hole for banning my husband from visiting my sister with me because he won't stop trying to debate her and her husband? If you're new to the channel, check us out. We read stories every single day. If that's something you're into, consider subscribing and drop a like down below. Here comes story number 2. My sister, Mary, 29, and her husband, Zach, 40, had their first child, a beautiful baby girl, 2 months ago. They've been pretty nervous parents, so when my husband Tom and I were invited to finally meet our niece, I was thrilled, except I was worried about Tom making an ass out of himself. You see, Tom and Mary have always had hard times getting along, because they do not agree on nearly anything. And Tom's always gotten a kick out of challenging Mary on their differentiating views, because, well, they're both very opinionated. The thing is, to Tom, it's funny to watch Mary react when he says things to provoke her, and Mary always wants to prove his views wrong. In his head, because, well, she was in grade school for social science. She finished right before having her baby and is knowledgeable about the topics that Tom wants to argue about. Mary should not have a problem with debating him because, quote, it's literally her job. In the past, both Tom and Mary have initiated these arguments, and they've both been guilty of taking it too far in the past. But ever since she got pregnant or had a baby, Mary has calmed down a lot, whereas Tom still tries to bait her into debates about touchy subjects, mainly politics and personal values. This got to a point where Mary blocked him on all social media a few months ago. Before we went to visit, I asked Tom to just be nice to Mary and Zach and not start anything. Tom said that he would try his best, and I told him I would be very upset with him if he tried to bait Mary or Zach into an argument. Tom started out the evening pretty strong and kept to himself, until it was revealed that Zach was going to be the one to stay home with their daughter. Tom made a comment like, quote, "Oh, I thought Mom was supposed to do that." Zach said that it was pretty sexist for Tom to say that, and when Tom asked how, Zach told him that moms can have careers too, and that Mary shouldn't give up all the hard work she's done. Tom started a tangent and Mary cut him off and told him to either quit or leave because she's done entertaining his nonsense. Tom laughed it off, but it was still very awkward after this. We didn't stay for long after, and when we did go home, I told Tom that I'm done with him embarrassing me, and that he's not allowed to join me whenever I visit Mary again, if I'm even invited back. I told him that it doesn't make him look smart when he always insists on having these conversations, that it just makes him look like a jerk and makes me look like a fool. Tom said I'm blowing this way out of proportion and that it's not his fault that they got so offended. And that if anything, they were rude to kick him out over his opinion. But Mary did not do anything to him this time. She did not step back at him. She did not call him names. She just asked him to stop. Am I the a-hole? Am I being unreasonable? Let me know in the comments down below. Okay guys, let me break this one down for you. In the original post, I'm telling you, everyone, and I mean everyone that commented, hated OP's husband. They said that he was a piece of crap, he had lots of red flags, but heck, let's just go ahead and read a couple comments. Not the a-hole, but your husband ducking sucks. I can't imagine looking at a person like that and thinking, yes, this is what I should attach myself to for the rest of my life. Well guys, it just went on and on about comments like that, but tell me your opinion. I do lean towards the comments and say I agree. This guy did have a lot of red flags. But tell me your opinion and drop it down below. Alright guys, that's all the stories I have for you today. Thanks for joining, thanks for stopping by, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful day, and remember, it's cool to be kind. The latest Mr. Reddito producer, Christine Billings. Thank you so much for the support.